Hello again! This is the point in both my first and second watches to compile this list that I start to question what really is good and bad in Star Trek, and moved more things around for about the next 50 episodes than anywhere else in these rankings. This block attached to the infamous number 47, I will say, I'm not even sure if many of these belong this high on the list. Let me know in the comments. This is Best of Trek, Worst of Trek. I'm your host, Dustin Wing. Skipping 4 centuries at 342, The Borg, Part 0. I may have been a little overzealous ranking this one, but I do believe it's the best episode of TNG's first season, despite the hokiness. As the Enterprise is hanging somewhere randomly in space, waiting for Captain Picard's shuttle to arrive, they detect a 20th century Earth space vessel that couldn't have possibly gotten out to the edge of the neutral zone in a few hundred years, with 3 living humans in cryonic stasis. Most shows go to or near the years they were filmed in, but TNG's sparing use of time travel brought the 1980s to the Enterprise D, for a bit of out-of-time comedy and shenanigans. Meanwhile, Picard has orders to investigate missing outposts along the Romulan neutral zone. There has been no formal contact with the Romulans in 70 years, but they're the obvious suspects. As pointy-eared Mark Lamo tells them in the end, Romulan outposts were also just carried off with no trace left. The Romulans are back in the game, and this is the first episode to quietly feature the Borg and just set up Q-Who in the next season. As far as possibly the worst season in Trek ever goes, this one's pretty decent, I guess. Doing time at 341, What We Must Endure. Or Choose Your Pain. Lorca is taken prisoner by the Klingons and forced into a cell with Ash Tyler, Harry Mudd, and a soon-to-be Redshirt. This is some of Star Trek's most brutal moments as Ash and Gabriel escape and leave Mudd to rot, until he comes back in possibly Discovery's best episode, Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. Meanwhile on Discovery, Saru as acting captain asks the computer to grade his performance through the episode, though he literally throws it away and is just filler to give us some name drops of the best captains in history, like Pike, Decker, Archer, and April. Saru also makes this huge jump in logic thinking a Klingon ship has Lorca on it. Getting to Lorca, Saru burns out the tardigrade and forces Paul to break genetic bands by injecting himself with tardigrade DNA, and is now the Spore Drive navigator for the rest of the show's run. There's some really great moments in this one, and a bunch of filler and inconsistencies that, like many episodes of Discovery, bring it down the list from something that had a lot of potential. Dealing with consequences at 340, Hostage Situation, or Shadows of Pajam. We again get the early running joke about Trip wanting to go on an away mission and Archer telling him not this time, but he's just messing with him, and he can come down to a planet they don't know has hostile dissidents that will kidnap the captain and T'Pol for extortion. This comes in the wake of the Andorians destroying the ancient Pajam monastery after Archer exposed it as a secret Vulcan listening post. This one drags a bit as the two try to escape to no avail, but when Mr. Jeffrey Combs himself busts in to save the pair and repay Archer's favor, the episode gets good. As a Vulcan cruiser had shown up to now free T'Pol, tensions run high against the Andorians and Vulcans on the ground, both against the dissidents, but also against each other. Another good time with Mr. Combs. Living in Your Dreams at 339, Nightmare on Delta Street, or Waking Moments. This episode starts with a weird shift between routine things crew members do as we cycle through all the things going on. We find all are having a realistic but unsettling dream, the best of which is Tuvok showing up for a shift naked on the bridge. There's a great story about this where Tim Russ got the prop guy to rig up a thing in the sock he wore over his manhood so it would stand up in front of the cast when he entered the bridge. So the laughing shot was a real thing they didn't know was going to happen. Nice one, Tim Russ. Anyway, they all encounter the same alien in their nightmares and realize something isn't right. Chakotay gets something halfway decent to do as he can lucid dream and wake himself up. He becomes the ambassador to this race of dreamers that are always asleep and playing Second Life, using telepathy to keep passing ships from finding them. Some hijinks about not knowing what's real and what's not make for an interesting watch here. Disciplining some creepy children at 3:38, Borg of the Flies, or Collective. As the boys on a mission aboard the Delta Flyer are playing poker, a Borg cube takes them prisoner. We're in a Borg cube and Harry's missing. So you mean Tuesday? This is no ordinary Borg vessel. All the adult drones are dead from what we'll find out later is Icheb's modified physiology to destroy the Borg, and the children of the Corn kids are running the ship, taking their lead from an older bully similar to Miri. Once Voyager enters the picture, 7 of 9 spends the run trying to get these childlike automatons to see reason. When that fails, they end up destroying the cube and the first dies of sheer stupidity, while the other kids are returned to Voyager and de-augmented. There's some really nice Janeway and 7 of 9 moments in this one, and the continuing development of the Borg kids through the season makes for some fun distractions. Shame how Icheb's story ended. The race of the Borg leader was from the species in Voyager's blink of an eye, suggesting the race finally found a way to exist in the rest of the galaxy's time. Also, Mazzoti's dress at the end is reused from the TNG character Isabella in Imaginary Friend. Number 337 isn't sure about the nature of its reality. In Who Am I? Or Projections. The Doctor manifests in sickbay, and after detecting no life signs on board, B'Elanna comes busting through the door. Turns out the reason he doesn't detect life signs is because everyone is a hologram except for him. A kinoplasmic radiation surge affected the Doctor while he was using the holodeck, and he can't make sense of what's real, and then out of nowhere we get Reg Barclay's introduction in Voyager. He spends the rest of the run convincing him he's a real boy, and at the end Chakotay shows up trying to convince him of the exact opposite. After some false endings where Kes is his wife, the Doctor is finally saved from his malfunction causing hallucinations. This is one of the more interesting high-stakes holodeck episodes. It's the first time Bob Picardo is given an episode to show us what he's made of, and he and Dwight Schultz play off each other really well in this one. A little hokey and over the top at times, but a decent hour of Trek. Collecting the rare and the valuable at number 336. Ethical malfunctions. Or the most toys. As the Enterprise takes on a rare and explosive mineral needed in a relief effort, it's just a smokescreen set up to steal data and make the Enterprise think his shuttle had exploded. The middle acts of the script are kind of dull, even though I actually like the performance of Faggio that other critics have condemned. The original actor died 2 days into filming, and the part was hastily recast. Not only are Faggio's actions to poison a planet's water supply and steal data an extreme ethical malfunction, but after discussion through the episode about whether Data's ethical subroutines would allow him to kill, he's in the act of pulling the trigger when the Enterprise finally figures out the deception. Furthermore, he lies to Commander Riker about the weapon going off in transport. This is kind of an anomaly in how we've seen Data portrayed in TNG, but ethical debates make for great Star Trek. Which this episode isn't, but it is quite good. Best half Riker maneuver ever, and even Picard gets in on the action. Wishing for Wellness at 335, The Cage, Part 2, or Life Signs. Voyager finds a Vidian female dying in a shuttle, and the Doctor performs some of his best holomedicine, storing her failing brain patterns in a hologram with some decent 90s CGI. The rest of the episode is Dr. Pell exploring her feelings of exuberance about being in a non-diseased form, and the Doctor opening up to the idea of romance, as he takes her on a series of dates. Dinara seems a lot like Vina from the original pilot, The Cage, who was deformed but existed in many forms through the Telosians. She tries to poison her own failing body, even though she can't exist as a hologram forever, for reasons. Eventually, they get her body stabilized and consciousness returned, and there's this nice little moment of her smiling, coming into Sandrine's for the last date with the Doctor as her real self.
Ah, computer!
That program is available.
Thanks, Major. Major, Major. Thanks, Major. Major, Major.
19 hours, 28 minutes.
Thanks, Major.
Full names, date, and place of birth.
Major, Major.
All decks, yellow alert.
Thanks, Major.
Captain Picard is located on the main bridge.
Thanks, Major, Major.
No significant geological activity has been recorded on Beta Agni 2,
Thanks, Major.
a Zabalian trader of the Stasius Trade Guild.
Major, Major.
Auto initiation of the EMH program occurred when a ship-wide red alert was initiated.
Thanks, Major.
Warp core is offline.
Major, Major.
Requested program is not on file.
Thanks, Major.
All holographic simulations were discontinued.
Major, Major.
The holographic imaging system has been destroyed.
Thanks, Major.
Ensign Kim is in his quarters.
Thanks, Major, Major.
Warning, warp core breach in 60 seconds.
Thanks, Major.
That procedure will require significant modifications.
Major, Major.
In a world where pandas shoot lasers and giraffes eat babies and taters, you would think that it would phase us, but it's really not complicated.